everybody. Happy Black History Month. Welcome to my channel. I'm Simone and you're sipping with Simone. So I know I said that every month I would come and kind of talk about some books that I read. This video is a little bit different because today I'm going to talk to you actually about a book that I listened to on audiobooks. So shout out to Simon and Schuster for sending me a copy of W.E.B. Du Bois, The Fight for Equality in the American Century in 1919 through 1963, and it's by David Levering Lewis. Okay, so first, I'll just say this is my first audiobook ever. I'm not somebody who listens to audiobooks. I like to have a tangible book. That way I can highlight things and go back later to kind of just read over it or kind of like jot my notes. But this was a very audiobook. I'm very impressed because I feel like when you're listening to an audiobook, I mean, this goes into my first point. Whoever is narrating it can make or break your experience. And I think Courtney B. Vance did an amazing job. And so for those of you who are not familiar with Courtney B. Vance, he is an actor. He's played in The Preacher's Wife and Lovecraft Country with Journey Sumlet. And also, he is married to Angela Bassett. So, y'all may know who I'm talking about. But I think he did a fantastic job narrating. He changed his voices when he was talking about the different characters. And it kind of really kept me engaged. I will say, since this book is basically a biography of W.E. Du Bois, I came in knowing a few things about him, and I was like, okay, let's see what else it is to know about him, because he is the person, was an intellectual of his time, like the intellectual. He has a hand in ushering in the Harlem Renaissance movement. He was a founder of the NAACP. And he also is the creator of the Talented 10th. So that's where I'm going to start giving you my points, because I feel like this book should have an intro that said W.E.B. Du Bois versus everybody, because that man was beef up. So, back to the Talented 10th. So the Talented 10th, if you do not know, is a theory that basically calls for training and education for the top 10% of Black Americans, and by the other 90% of Black Americans, they will see that and want to strive to do better. And so when I was kind of thinking about that, I'm like, dang, even today, I still feel like that rings true. I don't know. I grew up in a household with a dad that was like, if you want to have half as much as them, you got to be twice as better. To me, that's the same thing as, the Talented 10th. Like, get your education, get these trainings so you can go on and do these things for you, yourself, your family, and the race. And I don't know. When I really, did some reflecting on it, I can see how it can be kind of a detrimental thing to place on people, but it did a lot. And W.E.B. Du Bois, he did a lot with that for the Black community. When I was also reading this, I was like, man, this man is like a bougie Black. I feel like we have working class, education class, so there's a class difference, which brings me to his first beef with Booker T. Washington, because Booker T. Washington, and they touched on it briefly in this book, his philosophy was kind of like, pull them up by the bootstraps, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Another beef that I actually enjoyed, that I learned more about, is his beef with Marcus Garvey. So I didn't know anything about Marcus Garvey, like, was he really a scammer? And I'm excited because I actually have a trip planned to Harlem very soon. So I'm going, visit Marcus Garvey Park. But yeah, they were really beefed out because they had two different opposing opinions. Marcus Garvey believed in like back to Africa. So he did a lot of work to kind of discredit Du Bois, as well as Du Bois did the same thing. And so it was very interesting. I really enjoyed this part of the book because Courtney B. Vance, he actually like changed his voice to the two different characters. So when I was listening to them go back and forth, I could really visualize it. Like Du Bois just sitting up there, just going off. He's a scammer. I was like, he did this, and after I got done listening to it, I looked it up. Like, even though Marcus Garvey was a complex, crazy. I don't want to call him crazy, but a complex figure. He also did a lot for the Back to Africa movement. Another thing that I learned that Du Bois did, because did he graduate from Fisk? I cannot remember, but you know what? He did go to Fisk and he also went to Harvard. But a white president became the president of Fisk, which is a HBCU. And so he started putting out all these like insane rules. So W.E.B. Du Bois, he spearheaded a movement to get this man fired. So kind of, I don't know, a lot of the stuff that I was listening to, it kind of mirrored today. And why I think that reading our history is very important is because, as you see, they're trying to take away our history. Last week, Reverend Jesse Jackson passed, and he was like, his mentor, one of his mentors was Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was somebody who was heavily, well, I don't want to say heavily, but he was influenced by, W.E.B. Du Bois and the things that he's done for the Black community, although, like, they had two different ways of, going there. W.E.B. Du Bois also had, okay, this was one of my favorite beefs. So, W.E.B. Du Bois, he's a founding member. He's one of the founders of the NAACP, right? And so, what he was over was The Crisis, which is a magazine that kind of like, to me, it kind of was like representation, because it kind of showed like all these Black people doing good, and it kind of was a tool and a platform to help uplift the race. So Jesse Fawcett was in charge of that. And I like that this book did not shy away from the fact that W.E.B. Du Bois, he was not a good husband. And to me, he kind of did not seem like a nice dad, the way that he would talk to his daughter. Like, he treated her like she was kind of dumb. But back to my points, like, this audiobook, it got into like, it didn't go deep, but it did touch on the fact, W.E.B. Du Bois was cheating on his wife. He had multiple affairs, and I like that being put in the book, because I think oftentimes we get these biographies of these people who are instrumental to the Black community, and they want these people to be held in such high regards. But it's like, people are complex, so you can do all these things for the race, but still not be a good husband. So I appreciated that being in there. He ended up having beef with the NAACP, Walter. Well, I don't want to call him Walter Mosley. That's somebody else, but I think his name was like Walter White. I may be wrong, but again, the opposing views. it got to the point where W.E.B. Du Bois wanted self-segregation, to where, like, okay, say for example, I have a black, this is not an example, I'm a mom, so I have a black son. So instead of me sending him to, like, a white school, I would send him to a black school where he can get taught by these black capable teachers. And so kind of W.E.B. Du Bois was kind of pushing for some of that stuff versus integration, which the NAACP, they were known to do. They wanted equality. But W.E.B. Du Bois, he got to the point where he's like, I'm tired of y'all. We have all these capable black peoples. We've trained them up. The talented 10th, let's use them. Let's put them to work. So kind of when I think about that, I'm like, that's kind of the same things that's happening now. I hear a lot of talk about, parents pulling out their children from like all white private schools and going to send them to black private schools where they can get like a sense of culture and who they are. As someone who went to a HBCU and a predominantly white institution, I feel like you can always tell the difference. I feel that my professors at my HBCU, they always had in their mind, we need to turn out these black professionals so that they can go and do something with themselves. So a lot of these things that were discussed in his biography kind of made me reflect on things that has happened in my life or things that are happening in the future. I mean, that are happening now in our current times. And I'm just like, history is forever repeating itself. It's really crazy. Like I mentioned earlier, he kind of ushered, okay, so here's the thing. The Harlem Renaissance, like one of the biggest movements in New York. It ushered in like Langston Hughes, Zornell Hudson, just the arts and literature of people, right? Du Bois' mindset was the arts are our politics. So he only wanted to see a certain type of art represented. Where we have Alan Locke, who actually started the Harlem Renaissance. And they wanted to tell the art that they wanted to make, like what art is the way that we express ourselves. So he wanted to keep with that thing. So W.E.B. Du Bois and him was beefing. When I say that W.E.B. Du Bois helped usher some of these people in, Langston Hughes, for example, he used to be featured in The Crisis all the time. And then finally, Du Bois, his politics changed. He went from talented 10th to having more foresight, the thought that, Africa, if we're experiencing this in America, Africa is also experiencing this on a global level. So he became a Pan-Africanist and he moved to Ghana, which I did not know. And he died at the age of 93, a day before the March on Washington. I really enjoyed listening to this audiobook. All in all, it was 45 chapters listening to it. It really gave me more insight to him as a leader. It's very complicated, but he's done so much for the black race, and it's just like, these are the stories that we need to be telling. Every day, like I said earlier, they're ripping our history away. We need to know these stories so we could pass them down. So yeah, let me know if y'all listen to audiobooks. What books are you reading right now? Who are some other historical figures that you're interested in? Drop down in the comments and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.